Good afternoon, everyone. We are solving an obstetrics challenge using civil engineering technology. Rubén Molina here. I'm CEO and co-founder of INNITIUS. I want to ask you if you know what links the leading cause of hospitalization during pregnancy, the leading infant mortality cause around the world, and also the leading cause of fetal distress. The cervix. This is a small and critical organ from here that separates life from the outside world. And physicians know that something is happening there, but the truth is that no one really knows what. And when they know it, it's too late. They want to analyze and they want to understand why some pregnancies end too early, while others need of intervention to start. But they keep using the same methods that they were using since the 90s. Transvaginal ultrasound for measuring the cervical length, digital examination, which is inaccurate and non-reproducible between users, and biomarkers, which only appears when the cervix starts already to open. And the problem is huge. Every year, more than 35 million of pregnant women are affected either by a preterm labor case or undergo a C-section after an induction of labor process. And you need to know that 1 out of 3 women receive a misdiagnosis, which leads to unnecessary hospital admissions, unnecessary treatments, and which is even worse, maternal and neonatal morbidity, mortality, fetal distress, and unplanned C-sections. It's time for accurate diagnosis. This is our solution. CervixSense is the first tissue quantifier for the cervix tissue in kilopascals. And we provide this measurement because we discover that the likelihood of childbirth is directly related with the softness of the cervix. We published a paper in Nature where we compare ourselves versus ultrasound, because I want to make something clear here. We are not ultrasound. It's called torsional waves, and it comes from civil engineering, where we are more accurate than ultrasound for quantifying the softness of the tissue. We published a paper in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology comparing the reproducibility of our measurements between users, and we are even better than ultrasound. And we have a patent already granted in Europe, USA, Canada, and Australia, another one in PCT phase, and a positive FTO report in Europe and USA. But we don't stop at measuring the cervical softness. We know that every patient is different, and that's why we have created an artificial intelligence model that combines the output from the hardware, the measurement from the hardware, with different variables of the clinical record of the patient, such BMI, age, ethnicity. And what we provide to the doctor is not the measurement of the probe, but an actual assessment. And that's how our product was born. The hardware for measuring the cervical tissue softness, the AI models for combining the stiffness of the cervix with the patient clinical profile, and a software where the doctor receives the report. Well, we can apply the technology to several indications, but I'm going to show you some use cases. The first one is for research, because physicians already demanded that they want to use it for link the consistency of the tissue with different pathologies that are not in our short-term portfolio. So we're going to start commercializing only the probe for research purposes, and we're going to start the commercialization in the second half of 2025 in Europe, early 2026 in USA, and then we will commercialize 3 different diagnostic indications. The first one is TPTL app, Threatened Preterm Labor Assessment. Basically, is to differentiate an emergency unit between true and false preterm labor cases for those pregnant women that goes there with symptoms of premature labor. And the target there is to reduce the number of hospital admissions, the number of patients that will receive treatments with corticoids and tocolytics, and we already have clinical validation on that. We will get the CE mark in 2027 and the FDA clearance in 2028. But what if we can prevent this? That's the second indication. Let's go earlier on the pregnancy. At every single pregnancy, they have a regular visit at week 20. What if we measure the consistency with our probe and we try to prevent this threatened preterm labor? because we can provide an assessment to the doctor so they can prescribe a treatment with progesterone and avoid this preterm labor case. This is the biggest market opportunity for us, because if we are able to get this diagnostic to the market, we can scan every single pregnant woman. And the third case is induction of labor. And there, the output for the doctor is help them to make better informed decisions toward vaginal delivery or C-section in the induction of labor process. Again, the goal there is to reduce up to 48 hours the induction of labor intervals, up to 24 cycles of oxytocin per case, and ultimately reduce in 50% the post-term emergency C-section ratio. If you compare ourselves versus the current gold standard, we are more accurate in terms of sensitivity and specificity. We are reproducible between uses. As we are a digital solution, we are fully integrable in the electronic healthcare record. We are an ISO 13485 certified company. We have the design locked down. We have raised 10 million euros until today, including an EAC accelerator, completed clinical trials in 10 sites with more than 400 patients. We completed the market access and reimbursement studies not only for Europe, but also for the USA. And we have some traction with corporates, and now it's starting to start selling the product. Remember, the research product, we develop our clinical platform. We have scheduled clinical trials for the 3 diagnostic indications in Spain, Germany, UK, Sweden, and Denmark, which will allow us to commercialize the 3 diagnostic indications between 2027 and 2029. The company was created 7 years ago by Francesca Molina and myself, preventing uncomfortable questions. Molina is like Johnson in Spain, so we are not married and we are not family. And we have a COO that is coming from the American market, from Cyber Health. But we also have 16 people, full-time employees working in the daily basis, and an experienced board which has profiles coming from the industry. But I want to point out the clinical sites we work with. We work with the King's College, with Charité Berlin, with Clinic Barcelona, Vall d'Hebron, and also we have an extensive global clinical advisor network, including physicians not only from Europe, but also from the US, UK, and Germany. After completing the last funding round that we secured 1 month ago, 4.2 million euros, I'm starting to raise the A series. We are looking here for a lead investor that can help us to build this funding round. And the goal of this funding round will be to access the market with the 3 diagnostic indications and also to scale the company here to the US. We plan an exit between 2026 and 2028. As you can see, our probe could be easily integrable into the ultrasound machines, and we are already in conversations with some corporates. So we have the risk technology, interest from physicians, key opinion leaders, interest from the industry. We have a strategy, and now we need the cash for executing. Thank you.